Strong Dads wants to thank Quality Auto Mart for joining us as a sponsor. Quality Auto Mart was born in 1985. They are owned and operated by Mark and Nancy Repke. Quality Auto Mart provides all the services, repairs, and maintenance for your vehicle's needs with a 3-year auto parts and labor warranty. They offer complimentary vehicle safety inspection and estimates. Also, they offer a shuttle service, and the 4th oil change is always on them. They are located at 7307 on State Road 46 in Batesville, Indiana. Make sure you give them a call at 812-934-2301.
Welcome to Strong Dads. This is Merle Hutchinson being joined by Kyle Crawford. I almost called you something else.
You called me Linda since you just thought this was rock solid family radio here.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. You know, Merle, I went up to Wilhelm Lumber a little bit ago, and
a little plug for Wilhelm Lumber.
Wilhelm Lumber, yeah. And the lady at the front, she just was singing your praises, and
you gotta know
just
people.
Chuckled and said, "If you only knew, if you only knew the Merle Hutchinson that I know."
Oh man, heck no! Those folks at Wilhelm,
they're awesome.
They're awesome.
They are
and
legit.
Good people. And you know what? I'm just going to put a plug in for them for any wood lumber supplies that you need. You know, and I'm not talking like from a lumber yard, like with trusses and 2x4s, but like authentic natural wood. If you're going to do
Maple,
a woodworking
oak,
project, hardwoods, you got to go see Wilhelm's because and they're really awesome about. Just cutting to order what you need. Like you're like, hey, I'm trying to do this certain project. Here's what I'm looking for. You're like, yeah, I'll go out in the pile and I'll find it.
It is incredible what they have there. My goodness, just like for someone like me, that's like paradise. I'm just looking like, holy cow.
Yeah, good stuff. So yeah, that's not one of our sponsors, but hey, maybe they will be now. Yeah, they're good people.
Anyways, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, just moving along. Wrapping up the last bit of my whole summer project today. As you pulled in, there's concrete trucks and people getting busy. So we had the very last part is now kind of repouring some concrete, and hopefully that'll be done here in the next 24 hours. And
good deal.
We'll be rocking and rolling.
Good deal.
So speaking of pouring concrete, what are we talking about today?
Well, you know, we're coming off of the back end of our series we did on different ways that Satan kind of attacks us, and kind of went through a little 4-part series in that, and you know, and then we had an awesome guest last week. So, you know, for this show, we're going to talk about the value of work and what that looks like for us as men, and hopefully, you know, looking into our work to, you know, I think most men can relate to this idea of work, and the fact that I think most men, you know, feel the need and the urge to actually work. But, you know, it's one of those kind of when you get stuck in a little bit of rut and you maybe lose that sense of value in your work. So kind of going back to the roots of that, and hopefully having a good conversation about it.
Yeah, we'll get into some of that. I think it's not only good talk, but some necessary talk in terms of what sort of directions we see some mentalities are changing towards work, and I don't think it's really leading us in a very good direction. So we're going to talk a little bit about that stuff. But before we go, let me thank Quality Auto Mart for being a sponsor of the Strong Dads podcast. I took that one because, you know,
I butchered
it up
time.
a few times. So welcome to the Strong Dads podcast with Mark and Nancy Repke. I just screwed that one all up too.
Mark and Nancy, we're so sorry.
Yeah, why do we keep fumbling over your ad? Anyway, we do want to thank those guys and just their willingness to support the work that we do here in the message. So for any automotive need that you have, go see the folks at Quality Auto Mart located outside of Batesville, Indiana.
Good deal. Also, we would like to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions. Thanks so much for being a sponsor for us. Check them out, all your outdoor needs, home decor. They got an incredible facility off of State Line Road. So check them out. Let them know we sent you up there.
All right. Very good. So let me talk for a second just about maybe some of the things that got you and I going on this conversation. I have been having this conversation with guys for a long time, but in particular right here at my own house, and that is the problem or the challenge of trying to find workers these days. Whether I'm talking about the guys who help do the roofing on my project, the decking, the concrete, it doesn't seem to matter. Every trade that I had to call in, every owner of whoever the contractor was, we got into a conversation about, man, like I'm overwhelmed in my work because I don't have enough employees. I don't have the people to get the job done.
Yeah.
And to the point where, if it could be called epidemic, it is epidemic level. It's just beyond terrible.
Yeah.
The guys who are up doing some concrete work for me right now, he said, I could have 20 jobs going right now. And then there's only 3 guys at my place working, but he's like, these are the only 3 guys that showed up today.
Wow.
So he said, this is what I've got. I got 3 guys, and I got 20 jobs waiting that I could have started today. The people are itching; they're in line.
Wow.
And it's just it's ridiculous.
Isn't it crazy though? Just to think. I mean, honestly, the vast majority of workers today fit in our 2 generations, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And your generation more like the ones who probably own the businesses, own the trades, own those companies. And my generations are vast majority of the laborers, the line people that are actually
Right.
showing up every day to work. I mean, we're talking one generation, and there's a huge lapse and gap in this ability to want to show up and actually do the work.
Yeah.
And it's so hard because for someone like me who I find a great deal of value in my work, it's hard for me to put myself in the shoes of other people that are in my generation that are not willing to do that. And again, very generalized statement. There are a lot of people in my generation that do want to work and are willing to work, but man, it just seems like we're few and far between. And I don't know where that, where we're missing, the kind of missing the mark.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's part of the conversation today because I think somehow we have lost the idea of the value of work. Like, well, if the value of work is a paycheck and I can find a way to replace the paycheck part of it, then I really don't need to work. And so if I can find a way to cheat that, whether it's a welfare system, government handout, win the lottery, whatever it is, if I can find a way to cheat the value in terms of money, then the rest of it is meaningless.
Yeah.
And I think what we're seeing is the epidemic is way beyond a work shortage, but the epidemic is now an entire generation. This generation has lost into the millions now due to drug overdose, which you have personally been involved with on your side of a first responder.
Yep.
Mass or deaths due to shootings and crime. And so the incarceration rate is at an all-time high. And so what we're seeing, I think, is people have found ways to shortcut work by finding other ways to get money. I can sell drugs, welfare, whatever. And they have lost their way in life. Okay? And I think that's what we're going to get into a little bit today, that we have to stop associating work with just a paycheck. Because if it's just a paycheck, because all I have to do is somehow find a way to replace the paycheck part of that, and then everything else in life will be great, which is, goes back to the whole idea. Right now, as we're recording this, the Super Lotto or Powerball is now at $1 billion. I guess it's the second highest lottery in the history of that lottery. And the proof is in the pudding. Lottery winners are a very unhappy group of people. Yeah. And I know that sounds, give me a chance and let me see how unhappy I can be. Again, I just look at the number of divorces and suicides, and people tell you, like, it was probably one of the worst things that ever happened to me. I think it takes a very disciplined person in life to be able to take that much money on and not lose who you are.
As this idea of the value, finding value in our work, as we, kind of get into this conversation, it reminded me, I believe, and any of you guys can fact check me out there, I believe it's Mark Twain that said the 2 most important days in the life of a man are the day he was born and the day he figures out why. And I think it is because, man, I believe at my core that I was made to be a fireman. I really do. I believe that God put me on this earth to be a fireman. I love what I do. I find a great deal of value and a great deal of like purpose in what I do. And man, it makes getting up and going to work a lot easier. And again, maybe a generalized statement. I think part of this conversation when it comes to finding value is this idea that, man, there's just a missing purpose and why men are showing up to work. I think for the most part, it's like when you don't have that true value in your work, is because there's no purpose behind why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, man, this stems back to so much of the conversations that we've had in the past with the selfish nature that we have. If my purpose is to make me happy, if my purpose is to please me, to be comfortable, then I will eventually be lacking in purpose. In other words, it just won't fulfill me.
Yeah.
And then I'll have to start going to the next thing that provides a level of excitement, and that's where all of the shortcuts come in of, drugs, alcohol, sex, everything else like that. So I think you're right, understanding the purpose. But I also think that it's important that you have to connect your purpose to God.
Yep.
If I just say, well, I'm a great firefighter and that's what makes me excited to get up to go to work, you still haven't necessarily connected it to God.
Yeah.
And I think that if I only connect, because eventually your body's not going to be able to do that, right? I mean, just look at me, right? Eventually you're going to sort of be wore down and you're going to lose some of what you're good at right now. And so you're going to have to redefine your purpose or re-understand it. And I think understanding that as it connects to God starts to make it a little bit easier. So like our work first has to have its attachment to God. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
So how would I attach it to God? So, what does that mean? Well, I think the whole idea here is work is teaching us service. Service to others.
Yeah.
And so at your core, you are serving. And the very first thing that we find that people who are depressed and not functioning well, they start to lose their desire or ability to know who they're serving and why they're serving. And they start to become self-serving.
Yeah.
Right. So it's known that people who suffer from depression and anxiety, while they're in the depths of that, they have a higher level of narcissistic thoughts. In other words, they can't think about what's going on in your life because they can only think about themselves. Like, are they doing what they want to do? Are they happy? What's going on with my body? What's going on, in my life? And they forget to think that there might be other people out in this world. So I think it's really important that our first understanding is, okay, we are called to serve others.
Yeah.
And that's where work starts.
Yep. Yeah, I like it. So let's, you had found an article, I think you really touched on some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. You want to explain kind of, where you found this article and kind of maybe we'll get into, it talks about in this article, the top 10 reasons why work is valuable, and kind of, we'll dive into that conversation.
Yeah. So this is an article. It was written by a gentleman who's only like 29 years old. So I kind of got a kick out of that. And I believe his name is Matt Ragland. Ragland. And he's 29, and he's writing an article about the value of work. And, I thought it was first pretty cool that a 29-year-old, so we're talking about the generation that you and I are just talking about, like how he is coming to grips with, hey, I need to get this right. I need to make sure I put some thought into this. And so he has gone through and created, and we're not going to try to do a word for word on this, but I think there's good prompts in here. The idea here of why is it important to learn responsibility? So one of the first things that he talks about is it was important that I learned responsibility. And, well, what does responsibility mean? Responsibility means you are holding the value of something or somebody else.
Yeah.
You're taking care of a kid. You're taking care of other people, your wife, whatever. And if I don't have to take care of other people and I only have to take care of me, I have very limited responsibility.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. This idea of responsibility, Merle, this is something that in my world in the fire service, this is something we talk a lot about because, we every day we show up to work, we have daily house duties that need to get done. Just basic chores that you would do in your normal house. Again, this is my firehouse. I spent a third of my life there. So it's our responsibility to kind of make sure the house is put in order. And we talk a lot about the small details, i.e. changing the toilet paper, changing the napkins in the kitchen. And we talk a lot about how when our captain, when our house officer comes and says, hey, did you guys get that done? And we say, yeah, even say maybe we half-assed it, right? We didn't do it to completion, right? Then when the big task comes, so we're on a working fire, and my captain approached me and said, hey, did you actually search that room? He knows because of the history that I have actually taken I've taken the responsibility of making sure the small details, the changing the toilet paper, changing the paper towels, making sure the coffee filters are put away, so on and so forth. There's small tasks. Then when it comes to the big task, he knows he can actually trust what I'm saying. So I think this idea of work, taking responsibility, man, I think starts with the small details, the minor stuff, showing to work up on time. Man, for some people that maybe, to me, that's a big deal. That, you know, the small things like showing up work on time, showing up work ready to work with the attitude of ready to work. You know, if your work requires you to do the small task, man, do those, because those are building habits, that responsibility. Man, if nothing else, you're going to teach your kids that the responsibility of waking up every day and going to work is meaningful. There's purpose behind that. And I just think, you know, it's a great place to start with the idea of trying to find value in our work, that work is going to, you know, teach us that responsibility.
I'd love to disagree with you because it would make me feel less guilty. But you're right. The idea here, I remember being younger, and especially when my dad would jump my case about doing some kind of half-ass work.
Yep.
You know, I mean, Dad, it's like, it's just raking the leaves, you know,
Yep.
like, and he'd be like, do you really want to do it again?
Yeah.
You know, do you have that much time that you're ready to do it again?
Yep.
But back in those days, I did not think about what it was doing to my relationship with him, the trust building.
Yeah.
If I asked you to do it and you did it right the first time, think about the trust that was just established between the two of you versus if I had to tell you 2 or 3 times.
Yep.
And now I was like, well, I don't really trust that you're going to do it, so I have to check up on you.
Yeah.
And that's on me. Right.
Yeah.
And so, I was not a kid who quickly learned that. You know, it was one of those things that was like, I think you're overreacting. I think it's just a bunch of leaves, Dad.
Yep.
But you're exactly right. It's the responsibility. And I think at the core of that, the demonstration that you can be trusted.
Yeah. Yep, I like it. Yeah, this next one, man, I think when we talk about finding value, man, and putting it back to God, I think this is a huge one. Man, work develops relationships. Man, the relationships that I have with the guys that I spend every third day with, man, I can't tell you how strong that bond is. You know, I'm sure people that have been in the military, people that are police officers, they can attest to this idea that, you know, well, heck, you and Linda, I'm sure you guys have a crazy bond, right? On top of being married, you spend every day together, you know, working on your ministry that you're doing. Man, the ability to develop and have relationships with your coworkers, man, as a believer in Christ, there is so much value in that, because when you take the true value of that, you realize that relationship is bigger than just in the fire service, right? Because I show up every third day with the same guys. Man, my relationship that I have with those guys is bigger than any fire service. It's bigger than any fire we've ever gone on. Man, it's so much bigger than that. You know, where I want to know about the guys I work with. I want to know about their family, about their relationship with their wife, how they're doing as a man, right? And I think this idea, if you really want to start to kind of take a step back and begin to try and find that value in your work, what a great place to start with the people, your coworkers.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic because, you know, when you can't get along with people, you're going to quickly find yourself on an island in life. And if you just keep doing that as life goes on, you'll eventually dwindle down all of your friend base or your support system. You know, you mentioned Linda and I working together. Well, we were married 31 years before we started Rock Solid Families, and we thought we had a pretty solid marriage. Obviously, that's what allowed us to start the Rock Solid Families. But when we started working together, it was a whole different level of being put into the soup, you know, into the boiling water, because we had to quickly figure out tension between us. Like when something, like just like you, if there's a fire and you and another guy disagree on, you don't have time to sit there and argue and bicker about who says this is the right way to climb a ladder, right? Like the house is burning. You want to get on it. And the same thing Lynn and I found, like we were starting to have tension between the two of us within our work, our ministry, and we had to go home with it. We had to be at the office with it. and it made us double down. And I think our marriage is even better today than it was 5 years ago, but it wasn't easier. I mean, we had to go through some refining there of, all right, this is really not working well. So yeah, it forced us into even better relationship.
For sure. Yeah, this next point, that work produces endurance, I think is spot on, man. As a long distance runner when I was in high school, I remember thinking this all the time, that the beginning of the season for us, man, 3.1 miles seemed like a long way to go, right? And by the end of the season, I'm like, golly, we're putting 5, 6, 7, 8 mile practices in. That 3 miles doesn't seem that hard. And I think this is exactly what this author is talking about, this idea that as you go through your work, man, the trials and tribulations that you're going to go through, especially if you're doing with other people, man, those are when I'm at work and we're in the midst of a fire and things aren't going good, to go back to the drawing board, to go back to the kitchen table and sit and be like, hey, man, next time we do this, and then 2 days later we get to try it out and we get to figure out if what we're doing is actually going to produce something, man, that to me, that's when you have that conflict, when you have a little bit of friction, whether it be with a person or whether it be with actually the work you're doing, the ability to kind of dig your heels in, right? And I'm sure your generation used to say, buckle up your bootstraps, right? And like, let's go to work. I think the ability to have that endurance to realize that work is not just for the paycheck I'm going to get in 2 weeks, right? Work is this long career of actually developing my skills and redefining my skills and making sure I am the best person I can be for that job. Yeah,
perseverance. I love the idea of getting mentally tough to get through the more difficult day or time or task. This kind of sucks where I'm at right now. Put your head down and go. And you say my generation, I think my generation was one of the first generations that really started to find shortcuts into comfort, because we did start to get exposed to, well, the computer can do that for me. Well, I can sit a little bit longer. And I think we had a taste of hard work, but a taste of the comfort, and we have thrown away the value of the hard work. I actually see you guys now, those, especially guys your age and younger, who do have the capability of work and desire, you guys are rising to the top quickly because you're showing up. Like you already know how to get through a headache or a tough day. And so I think I just was talking to some of these guys out here doing concrete. I'm like, you guys, there were a couple young guys there. If you want to work, you can make some major money. You can own your own company in a matter of no time if you want to show up, because you're learning right here how to get through the headaches, and there's no competition. I think there's the next point on here. This used to drive me crazy in schools, self-esteem. There was a big push for years about parents giving their kids self-esteem and teachers giving kids self-esteem. And it never even made sense at the time. To me, it was it's good to praise and encourage and give words of affirmation, but you don't give people self-esteem. If I tell you you're good at something when in fact you're not, I'm a liar. And I set you up for greater failure. And so the only way you actually get self-esteem is actually by doing the work, by proving to yourself that you are capable and worthy and valuable in a particular task. And so self-esteem, it can be taken away from people. I can look at you and I can beat you down. But I can't artificially build you up, because it's kind of like in sports. The reason there's a scoreboard doesn't lie, right? And at the end of the day, it's going to be what you produced. And self-esteem is, well, what am I putting out there? So I think it's really important that that we recognize work, or our output, our productivity, is something that gives us our self-esteem, not other people's praises. Okay.
Just real quick on that, Merle. The one thing that I have found, and again, I'm just using my experience as kind of my talking point here. I would say when you fail at something, dig into that even more, because the self-esteem you're going to develop from that, if you continue to try it, right? So when you mess up, so I know when I got put onto a ladder truck, throwing ground ladders was a huge hurdle for me because I'm a small guy, right? And if I were just to throw my hands up and say, well, I just won't do that, right? That I'll leave that for someone else. Man, then just like we were saying, your self-esteem is lower then. But because I dug that in and I realized that's a huge part of my job, I need to make sure I'm proficient at this. I dug into that, and now my self-esteem, my comprehension of what it comes to ground ladders is so sky high.
Yeah, which is then your self-esteem, right? Like, well, you can't take that away from me. I know what I know. And I know what I can do. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Work provides money, financial resources. Okay, so we can't talk about the idea of money's not important, it's overrated. No, it totally is something we need, and there's great value in it because it allows for lots of other things. It allows for freedom. It allows for new opportunities. And so the idea here that money can give you money, or I'm sorry, work can give you money is a very important thing to realize. But I also think that we have to attach to it the inflation rate of what the money says. I look at what people are getting paid. As we record this right now, there are billboards hanging up in certain areas that are saying, McDonald's and other fast food restaurants, 14, 15, 16. We saw a $20 an hour deal at a fast food restaurant just over the weekend. And my wife and I were like, we're shutting down Rock Solid Families. We're going to go flip burgers, So we can really kind of mess with people's heads by overinflating that, and then we start to put all of our value in, well, this is how good I am. I make this much money. Well, just how the amount of money you make doesn't necessarily indicate how good you are. So you just have to be careful with the money part.
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, as we keep moving down, this idea that work offers kind of a daily impact, man, this is big for me. This is part of the reason why I feel that my job, I do have so much purpose and value in what I do, is because I feel like every day there's at least an opportunity to have an impact. And again, this goes back to that relationships. Even if those relationships are being on a run with somebody for 15 minutes. And I'll be the first to admit I squander a lot of those opportunities because I'm there to provide I'm doing a job, right? But I think, man, if you have the ability to take a step back and realize that every person you come encounter with, you have the ability to make an impact on them, positive or negative, right? And I think to actually take that to heart and realize that, man, again, bringing in the faith component back into the true value, realizing that the impact that we can have on other people, because naturally most occupations you get to encounter a lot of people, whether it be on the phone if you're making phone calls behind the desk, whether that's actually face to face, man, your impact that you can have on another person is huge.
I want to take this farther because I think this goes back to understanding that we connect our work to God. Because I think, Lynn and I felt like Rock Solid Families and starting this ministry was not just about making a marriage better today. It was about making families better and generations to come, kids' lives better, their marriages. Excuse me, getting all messed up here. Making them better. And so when you connect it to God and you see that God works in a timeless frame, he works on an eternal frame, the idea that now the impact you do has an eternal impact. So you just serving somebody, helping somebody, encouraging somebody in your work, you could change the course of their life.
So good. Yeah, man, this next one that this author was talking about is this idea that work challenges your comfort zone. Holy cow, this is spot on for me. I can't tell you the number of times I've been so uncomfortable walking into someone's house asking them what I can do for them because they call 911. And man, I think, again, bring the faith component, I think God wants us to be challenged in everything we're doing because comfort, it breeds complacency, right? And in our complacency, it breeds just this lack of value that you're finding in your work. Man, I think in everything we do in our work, we should be pushing our comfort zone because everyone likes to sit in their nice little bubble, right? They don't want to be challenged. They don't want someone to ask them questions. They don't want to, be put in a dirty situation. Man, I just think that, again, going back to trying to find that value in your work, put yourself in positions where you're not comfortable. Because again, if you want to talk about building self-esteem, put yourself in a really uncomfortable situation, and then yes, go back to the drawing board to be like, all right, next time I'm going to be a little bit more comfortable because I've already done this. Building that experience, I think the only way to really truly build experience is to put yourself in situations that you're not used to. That's the only way to truly build, that comfort.
Yeah. Write this down. All
right.
I use this all the time. Okay.
I need a pen.
Especially with my young guys. The most dangerous water you can paddle in is calm water. The most dangerous water that you can paddle in is calm water. And the reason is because you become complacent. If you're constantly out on a flat water lake and there's no breeze and you think you're great. You think you're awesome. Look how much headway I make. Look how fast I go. And occasionally we need a little bit of stormy water. Now, nobody likes hurricanes, so
Right.
let's be real, okay? But the idea of if the first time water gets a little choppy, I flip my boat because I've not practiced my skills of keeping it upright because I'm always in flat water. I'm not very good at what I do. Okay.
Yeah.
And so having the ability to get through, one of the things that we talk about in the Special Forces group that we're familiar with is they have to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk to those guys and they're going through BUDS training and Hell Week and all that, and they are freezing cold as they're wet and sandy out on the water, and they're just like, you learn real quick that you embrace the suck.
Yep.
You embrace the suck and say, yeah, this is so good. I feel miserable right now. And it's only because you got to mentally know how to get through your discomfort.
Yep. Man, that's so good. This next one, Merle. Man, this is a tough one to really. I think whether it be a pride issue, whatever it looks like, but man, to truly find the value in your work, you need to realize that work is not about you. This is a tough one. I'll be the first to admit, this one is a tough one for me because I feel like at where I'm at in my career, man, I am trying to change the environment that I'm around, and I'm trying to change the firehouse that I'm in, and trying to incorporate different things of the guys that I want to see on the fireground, right? As a quote unquote, leader, not leader, right? I don't have the cool title of a lieutenant or a captain on my fire department. I'm just a fireman. I'm an everyday fireman, right? And I lose the fact that, man, it is not about me. It's not about what Kyle Crawford wants in the firehouse. It's not about, again, you want to talk about, it's not about you. Go back to the last point because if you think it's about you, you are way too comfortable. You are way too comfortable in your position. You kind of hit this plateau, right? Man, I just think this idea to realize that work is not about you. There's bigger purpose behind why you have to show up to work than just because, hey, Kyle Crawford's here now. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Well, it's such a mentality that has been really promoted for so many years. This frustrates me all the time, and I know I'm just being naive. But when you see an athlete that's a pro athlete that's on a great team, and they're winning Super Bowls or World Series or whatever they're winning, and their contract is up, and then all of a sudden they are worth, X number of millions of dollars, and they could stay on this team and keep this team together, keep the nucleus together, and keep the winning going as a team. Or they could say, well, you know what? This is what I'm worth, and I'm going to go out and shop myself around. And so I think it is detrimental because not just does it hurt the team, but all of those who are watching get the same mentality. Well, what's in it for me? And so when you hear people say, well, I just don't care about anything other than winning the Super Bowl or whatever, it's like, well, if that's the case, then you'd be willing to say, you know what, I'll take $1 million less, but I want to keep this group together because, man, we're like brothers here. We're like brothers. And it's very rare anymore that you see that. Guys' contracts come to expire, and they're like, you know what, I got to look after me and my family. And they always throw their family in there. It's like, no, you're looking after you. So we just have to be careful. It's not that you aren't an important part of the formula, but it can't be simply about you.
Yep, I like it. This next idea, this idea that work improves society, man. That maybe that's the obvious one, right?
That's a big duh.
It is, because I mean, the more people we have working, the better our society looks, and the better our society functions and operates, and is all very true. And this going back to the last point, that work is not about you, right? This idea that man, if you want to improve your community, if you want to improve your family and the people, your relationships you have, man, all that it's a domino effect that if you lose sight of the fact that it's not, if you think it's all about you and screw the society, screw what everyone else is thinking, whatever else is doing, man, when you lose sight of that, the domino starts to fall. And then I think that's where you begin to truly lose that value in what you're doing. But if you realize that, man, when I show up to work every day, and so do the other guys that I'm working with, the other people I'm working with, collectively as a group of employees, when we show up to work, we are improving our community.
Yeah, I mean, we say it's a big duh factor, but it's not in today's culture. The idea that people will, I love when we have protesters out in the middle of the day, and we're like, how's that guy do that?
Yeah.
Doesn't he have a job?
Don't you have to work?
Don't you have to work? And it's like there's a number of people out there that think that their quality that they add to the world is them going out and protesting, and versus just carrying a day-to-day job. And I think there is an important factor here, because the day-to-day work says that you're taking care of other things, other responsibilities versus just yourself. All right, so the next thing is just talking about, hey, do you want to be a slave to somebody else, or do you want to have some independence? And the only way that we really get a level of independence, we're never going to be truly 100% independent, because we are in a interdependent function here as humans working with other humans. But the idea of me not being a slave to another person is freed up when I know how to work. When I know how that I don't have to be dependent on somebody else keeping me around, that I could go out and make my own way. And my son is getting ready to, he's looking to get a little winter job. And he's like, well, I don't really know what I could do. It's a winter kind of job, and they take kids who are underage, they can be 14, 15. And I said, everyone's in the same boat, dude. None of you guys have gone to school for anything that you're getting ready to do. I said, I was told very early that your first jobs when you're a kid and you haven't developed any particular skill yet, the biggest thing that you need to have in your mind is nobody here will outwork me. And I remember that baling hay. The first year I was brought out onto this crew, and these guys were all older high school guys, and here I am, a scrawny little freshman. I mean, I wasn't the biggest guy, but nobody outworked me.
Yep.
I mean, they could lift a bigger bale of hay maybe, but I was putting it down.
We call that at work? We call that the
ass buster.
We call it the junkyard dog.
Yeah.
We want to be known as the junkyard dogs of a fire scene. If there's a task that needs to be done, we're there. We're the ones doing it.
Yeah.
We want to be the first ones that say, hey, Chief, what else needs to be done? We want to be the first ones in line, the last one to leave for the day. We want to be the junkyard dog.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that just getting that in there, like that starts to create a value in yourself, even as a kid. Like I knew I wasn't like the best, but I knew that, hey, nobody can take away how hard I work. And that was the thing that just I always stuck with me. No matter what job I did, it was like, yep, you're going to learn to work hard here. So.
I like it. So yeah, as we kind of wrap this up again, just going through different ways to hopefully find the value in work. Before we do, kind of wrap this show up, Merle, I have one question for you. So this is a tough one here. So obviously, we're talking about hopefully finding that value in the work. Merle, what happens if we don't feel that our business, our company values us? Because that's a real thing. I'm sure if you were to list a number of reasons why people are leaving work, it's because they don't feel valued from their employee. What would you say, kind of a takeaway for us, kind of moving forward, moving it past that?
Well, first off, I think that there can be legitimacy in what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because, that would be foolish for us to think that everybody is valued by their companies.
Very true.
We know we've all worked in situations where we're not much more than a number. What are you doing for me, the company kind of thing. And so I think the very first thing to clear up the elephant in the room is, well, first off, before you start looking at what the company's doing for you. What are you doing for the company, right? Let's get a little John Kennedy-esque here, okay? Yeah. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you're going to do for the country. So, because that's the elephant that you can control.
Yes.
And so I'm going to ask first, okay, are you busting it? Are you the first guy there, last guy to leave? Are you the one who's out working? Are you the one doing your things? And if that is the case, and it comes across, whether through evaluations, through paycheck, all these other things, that you are just not feeling recognized and value at the level that you believe is important, then the last thing that you're going to get from me allowing is complaining about it. All right. Okay, you've done what you need to do. You've covered your bases. And, okay, this is just the way this organization is going to operate. All right. They have their free will too. Now it's your free will to go exercise it. And it's time to go out and look for jobs. Yep. Okay. And, I've changed jobs in my life. I know we've had conversation with you. It's like at some point in time, sitting around and doing nothing but complaining is just not acceptable.
Yeah. Just perpetuates the problem.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know if I answered that completely,
I like
but you have to do something.
Yep, good deal. Yeah, I hope that this hopefully sparks some good conversations, at least amongst yourself. To try and figure this out, try and really evaluate if you're really finding value and purpose in your work, and if you're not, man, what can you do to change? Because again, this is something I'm trying to wrestle through right now. That the things that I can control, and what we just talked about, some of these different points, man, these are some things that we can control. And man, going through and actually being honest with yourself, actually saying, yes, I'm willing to, the work is not about me, it's about the relationships, the people I'm working with. Again, going through those 10 little bullet points that we kind of drew from. So hopefully you guys got some good from that.
All right, very good. So, guys, we need your help. We need your help in spreading the messages. And if you are one of those guys who gets something out of what we try to put out, we want to thank you. Please give us a 5-star rating. It just helps boost up the search engines as people go out there looking for good stuff. Also, share the show with guys that you might think could get something out of them. So as we've talked about before, maybe this whole work thing was not your issue, but maybe you're with a guy who's struggling with a work situation or looking at different jobs. Hey, this is a conversation that's worth having, because I think we went through some priorities today of, well, what do I really need to make sure my mind's right with first? So share these shows. Yep. And also, if we could help you with any coaching or anything like that, reach out to us. You can call our office at Rock Solid Families at 812-576-7625, or you can go to the website at Rock Solid Families, which is rocksolidfamilies.org. So there you go. Let's get it done. We got work to do, brother. Come on. We got work to do.
We have a lot of work to do. But yeah, thanks so much for Quality Auto Marts and Casey Outdoor Solutions for coming alongside of us. Really do appreciate them. You guys have a good week and go out there and be a strong dad.
Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.